Los Angeles is not technically on fire. The riots are in Paramount, California. So all the reporters saying, Los Angeles, there's nothing happening in Los Angeles. Yeah, okay, it's Paramount, California, which is part of Los Angeles County. They're really, really trying to cover this up. Gavin Newsom is out with a tweet right now saying, please stop doing this. You're giving Trump ammunition. Adam Schiff, the senator from California, is saying the optics of this look bad, guys. It's not the riots that are bad, you see. It's the optics. And you have to understand these people have embraced the idea that vandalism is not damage or bad or violent because there's insurance. Only harming people is bad. What actually happened? The Los Angeles Times, to their credit, does a very good job. If you got the show notes today, text data to 33777. It's in there. Los Angeles Times breakdown. Basically, a California assemblyman saw ICE cars, SUVs. He was on the road. They were headed in the opposite direction. He turned around and followed them, and they went to a facility near a Home Depot. He got on social media, let everyone know, and the mob was summoned. A Democratic politician sending out the riot signal on social media, and the protesters showed up. The protests over time turned violent, and Donald Trump says he's sending out the National Guard. Now, the talking point from the Democrats and the media is that this is what provoked the rioters to riot. There's a problem here. Let me first play you Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles.
Well, I'm worried about everybody. I'm worried about members of law enforcement. I'm worried about the safety of the people who are peacefully protesting. I'm worried about the businesses that might get vandalized. I'm worried about the vandalism that took place around the federal building. All of that. We do not need to see our city torn apart. And the idea that the federal government that should be assisting us is a contributing factor, I think is very tragic. When I see the protesters, I know that so many people are affected by this. Their families are affected by this.
It's the National Guard being there is a contributing factor. Well, they asked the chief of police for the city of Los Angeles about the National Guard exacerbating the tensions.
What was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent? To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern. But certainly I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow, or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this, and they do that. And they come out here, and many come out and just want to see what's going on. They're out there with their cameras, but they're putting themselves in harm's way and potentially setting themselves up for a criminal future. When you look at some of the things that are happening here, somebody could easily be killed. And if you're part of that, then you're going to be facing those charges as well.
In case you missed it, the chief of police for Los Angeles says the National Guard, there aren't enough of them to matter. In the second and third nights of these things, they tend to turn more violent as more and more people show up, agitators show up, and that's what's happening. It has nothing to do with the National Guard. That was the line given by Democrats and members of the media, though. That was the talking point that came out, that Donald Trump provoked this, Donald Trump wanted this, and the LA County chief of police says that's not true. And by the way, there's not a whole lot that they can do, and they're not really engaged in what ICE is doing. You should note, by the way, and this is a fact, this is not my opinion. This is a fact. The National Guard soldiers who are there, and they're not a lot, have surrounded the ICE facility to protect it from where the rioters were. The rioters, the cars you're seeing burned, the violence you're seeing done is mostly happening to L.A. County police and to California Highway Patrol vehicles, not actually to federal vehicles. It is the L.A. County police and the California Highway Patrol who are out trying to stop the rioters while the National Guard is just protecting the ICE facility. But you wouldn't actually know that from the media, the very same media that wants you to know this really isn't affecting L.A. and nothing's happening in L.A. It's no big deal. It's a small isolated incident. Are also like the National Guard has whipped these people into a riot. They want to have it both ways. In fact, if you want to get some of the wild commentary, listen to this reporter on KTLA 7. It's the ABC affiliate in Los Angeles. Just listen to this for a minute.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation.
People having fun watching cars burn is the rhetoric. A little more from Channel 7 out there. Wild commentary. Watch it, just people having fun watching cars burn. That's all it is.
Demonstrations had been going on right outside the Federal Detention Center. Most of those demonstrations were very peaceful. They were chanting, they were shouting. People were driving by, honking their horns. And again, they were expressing their anger about the detention of so many immigrants at the Federal Center. Most of the evening, the federal agents stayed inside the building, but at a certain point, some of the demonstrators got very close to the property. In fact, some of them went onto the property, started tagging the building, started banging at fences, and shortly after all that happened, the agents started firing off tear gas, and then they came out.
What you can't see there on radio is as she's talking, trying to say it's no big deal, she's beginning to be surrounded by the rioters who are shooting the middle finger into the camera. Yes, Donald Trump, of course, has weighed in on what's happening.
We're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit.
They spit, we hit. He's not backing down on this. And they're in an absolute meltdown over the situation, claiming that the National Guard has exacerbated this. Here's the spin from MSNBC.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Ali. I think that's the right analysis. Look, it didn't really reach this point of the scale and the intensity of this protest and the scale and the intensity of the confrontation between protesters and law enforcement until National Guard troops were deployed here today. That very much poured gasoline on the flames, and that very much led to the LAPD, acting as in as widespread and aggressive a manner as we saw them acting today.
Now, just wait a second. I want to go back and I want to replay this clip for you. You've now heard this, but I want you to rehear. This is an MSNBC reporter carrying water for the left.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Ali. I think that's the right analysis. Look, it didn't really reach this point of the scale and the intensity of this protest and the scale and the intensity of the confrontation between protesters and law enforcement until National Guard troops were deployed here today.
The scale and intensity didn't happen until National Guard was deployed today, but the National Guard, though deployed, was not actually present. And then what happened?
That very much poured gasoline on the flames, and that very much led to the LAPD, acting as in as widespread and aggressive a manner as we saw them acting today.
So it was the LAPD, not the National Guard, that was acting aggressively. It was the LAPD, not the National Guard. Let's go back to the LAPD police chief on whether or not the National Guard is what poured gasoline on the fire, because that's contingent from MSNBC and Daniel Noriega, who is an NBC News reporter.
What was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent? To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern. But certainly I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow, or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this.
Including a California assemblyman. So the LAPD chief, who I would venture to categorize as an expert, probably more of an expert than an NBC News reporter on the ground, says the National Guard actually has nothing to do with exacerbating the situation. It's the social media feeds encouraging people to come down. Now, Real Talk on MSNBC this morning, they're obviously very not happy about it.
I think when Gavin Newsom talks about it, I take him at his word. I do believe he believes what he's saying. I think they're willing to have this fight. I think they want it to go to the courts, and that they think ultimately that the American public will find it inhumane once you start to go after people who they feel like didn't do anything wrong. I think when it does go to the courts, for people thinking, oh, the courts are going to step in and say you can't use the military, I don't know that that's how this court is going to decide. I think it's very clear the court feels like the president has a lot of authority, particularly when it's under the guise of national security. And I think he'll have a lot of freedom, even if this hasn't been done since 1965. And even if he takes it a step further and goes for the Insurrection Act, I think that he has the backing, and he feels like he has the backing of the courts to do this.
He does. I think he does. He's got the legal authority to do it. Gavin Newsom would be fine with these places burning down. The other issue here is beyond the Democratic politicians. It is members of the media. You know, when there were the riots in Portland, Oregon, and they were attacking the Federal Center, you had left-wing reporters reporting in major mainstream publications. I was able to eat my hot dog peacefully in downtown Portland and didn't even smell tear gas. It's never a big deal. Brian Stelter on CNN said, you know, there are 1 million people in L.A. and none of them know what's going on. You know, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but on 9/11 in 2001, only in New York, Washington, and a field in Pennsylvania did anything happen. The rest of the nation, nothing happened. To dismiss it as not a big day, though, is absurd. It is Paramount, California. The media notice they're not saying Paramount, California. They're trying to make it all about L.A. to say it's there's nothing in L.A. It's true. Los Angeles is not burning, at least from the riot. From the wildfires, yes. From the riots, no. Los Angeles is not burning. Paramount, California, which is in L.A. County, there are riots. Are they within a block or so of a federal ICE facility? Yes. It's not widespread, but it doesn't matter. They have turned violent. And for the media to say Donald Trump poured gasoline on the fire by summoning the National Guard, they weren't there when it turned violent. The Los Angeles County Police Department chief says the National Guard's not to blame. This happens on the second and third day. We're seeing masked individuals waving Mexican flags, firebombing police cars, throwing Molotov cocktails at ICE vehicles as they drive by. People found piles showed up. Who is putting the piles of cement out? There's got to be an investigation into this. Seriously. People went by in vehicles and dropped off piles of rubble to throw at ICE vehicles and police vehicles. People were throwing Molotov cocktails off the 101 onto police cars parked below, blocking traffic, catching them on fire. This is the left in action. The summer riot season has begun. And now, 24 hours into this, after saying Donald Trump caused this, it's Donald Trump's fault, you've got Gavin Newsom and Adam Schiff and other Democrats coming out saying, hey, guys, stop it. Stop it. This is helping Donald Trump. This is emboldening Donald Trump. Yes, because I would submit to you that but for COVID, Donald Trump would have won re-election in 2020 on a law and order message. Americans do not like violent rioters, and they do not like people stymieing the deportation of illegal aliens. That's what this is all about. The American people are not on their side, and you're going to turn them further to Donald Trump. And Gavin Newsom, Adam Schiff, and the other Democrats realize the left is yet again overplaying their hands, driving law and order Americans into the arms of Donald Trump.